So today, guys, we're going to be making a batch of frozen ham vegetable stew. Now this is going to be a frozen meal to put in the freezer and reheat at a later date. So right here I've got 2 carrots, a stalk of celery, half an onion, a 1/4 cup of noodles, 2 bouillon cubes, and some water, and a little bit of Slap Your Mama seasoning for taste. Now you can use just whatever seasoning you would like. This is just my go-to seasoning. It's got salt, black pepper, red pepper, and granulated garlic, just a good all the way around seasoning. So I'm going to start by taking my ham steak and I'm going to cut it up into good sized chunks. And I'm going to put it in my Stanley Wildfare Go 4-cup pot. Alright, so I've got that cut up and deboned into smaller chunks. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in my pot. Just going to take the back of my knife and rake these in here. You can use whatever meat you like. You can use beef, chicken. I'm using pork right now. Never used fish, but you can use that as well if you like. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut up my vegetables right here. I've only got carrots, stalk of celery, and some onions. So I'm just gonna chop the ends off these carrots real quick. That one's got a bad end on it. Just throw those out. Now I'm gonna peel the skin off my carrots. So after you have the celery cut up, just go ahead and put that in the pot as well. I'll save the best for last. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the onion up. Oh, I always hate cutting onions up. They always make my eyes water. But we're going to do it anyways. We're only using a half onion because onions are pretty stout, but I do like onions. So we're going to chop these up pretty fine. So cut up, I'm going to go ahead and put the onions in the pot as well. Alright, now that I've got the onion in the pot, I'm going to go ahead and add the water on this. Alright, now I'm only going to put enough water in there to go just right above the level of the vegetables. So this whole entire pot, it's come up to right about 3 cups or 750 milliliters. As you can see right there, we have the markings that are indented. That's the nice thing about this Stanley Wildfare Go pot. This is the 4-piece set pot. It comes with 2 cups. They do make bigger pots for you out there who want that. So now we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of seasoning in there. Now, I advise you to add just whatever you'd like. You don't necessarily have to use Slap Your Mama. This is just my go-to seasoning. And I'm going to go ahead and add my bouillon cubes. Now, the rule of thumb for a bouillon cube is you're going to add 1 bouillon cube for every cup of water. So, since we have about 3 cups, really about 2 cups of water, we're going to add 2 bouillon cubes to the mix. Make sure those get in there. Alright, now what I like about this lid is it also has holes for straining and to release steam. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the lid on it. Now I am going to be cooking this over a fire, so we're going to see how this goes. So let's get this down to the fire and let's get it cooking. So I got some coals for my fire, and I've got my little stand here. I put my coals right under there so it can get a nice even heat. Now I do want to get this pot a little bit closer to the ground, so I'm going to hammer the legs of my holder into the ground just a little bit. Alright, so I've got that in there. Now we're just going to let it come to a boil, and then we're going to add our noodles. Tell that there's a boil in there because we have the onions and carrots and celery in there as well as the meat. But we're going to go ahead and dump in our 1/4 cup of elbow noodles. Now you can use any elbow noodles. You can use gluten-free or just regular elbow noodles. Alright, so we're just going to give it a nice stir just to make sure that those noodles aren't burning. And every so often you want to stir it and make sure that it's cooking well. A little tip, if you're ever cooking on coals or briquettes or just an open fire in general, occasionally you want to make sure that your pot is getting enough heat. So what that means is, A, your coals may have died down a bit, or B, you did not put enough coals to begin with. Now, a good rule of thumb when you're cooking a type of food such as chilies or anything with liquid is you can't really get it too hot, because water boils at 212 degrees and that's as hot as it's going to get. So if you're cooking something with water like this, then you really can't get too much. But now you will have to be careful if you're cooking anything else that is not liquid. Alright, so about now you're going to want to check and see if your noodles are done. That's really the only thing that we're waiting on at this point. So you're going to want to dig around there and see if you can find a noodle. Now if you don't know how to check a noodle, what you do is you get one out, you make sure it's cooled off, and you eat it. Now the way you know if it's done or not is when you chew on it. If it's really chewy, then it's really not done. But if it's nice and firm, then you take it off and you're ready to either eat it or bag it up. But in this case right now, it is still a little bit chewy, so we're going to let it cook for another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll come back and see if it's done. I want to make sure and take the lid off so we can let it begin cooling before we put it in our bag. So on my bag, I'm going to put onion vegetable ham stew. And I'm also going to include the date in case I don't use it so it doesn't go out of date and I don't make myself sick. And also at this point, if you taste it and you feel like it needs some more seasoning, I would add more seasoning while it's hot. Now I am also going to write spicy on mine because I did add a hotter seasoning. So we're going to want to let that begin cooling off, so that way we can put it in our bag without it melting. So we're going to let this cool off and then we'll get back at it. So my stew has finally cooled off, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the lid, and I'm going to carefully pour it in this bag. Now I am using a 1-quart bag, and a trick that I've used is I'll roll the sides down to ensure that I have a good grip, and so it helps it stay open, as well as it won't drip on the outside of the bag. So I'm going to kind of place the bottom of it right there, just like that. Now I'm going to kind of stand it up. Alright, and as I'm doing this, I'm making sure that none of it gets on the side bag or on the table. Alright. Then let's fold the top back up. Close it. And I will remove the air. That way it packs better. The way I'll do that is I'll just kind of push it down till it pushes up to the top. Alright, let's